I'm Dr. Angela McBurdy of DoctorFlute.com, and today's flute tip is on 10 commonly asked questions. Number 1, do I need to stand when I'm practicing? Well, the answer to that is maybe. I think that standing is probably the best way that you can get the best posture. Now, my daughters like to practice in their room and keep the door closed. And when I open the door, I see a lot of sitting going on. And I know for them that when they sit, they do not have great posture. So, I'm the teacher mommy that has to come in and say, take your chair away. You need to stand up straight and tall, keep your head up. So when I say maybe, they will see me, and sometimes I'm practicing sitting because I've had a long day. And the reason why it's okay sometimes and not okay is because of posture and the airstream. If you can sit and have a straight airstream coming down from below and going all the way up and out, all the way up into your sinuses and out, you probably can do well sitting. It's all about that straight airstream. If you're slouching or you don't have a great posture when you're sitting, then you should be standing. Now, there's something to be said for having the sound come from your feet and go up, and that you're grounded when you stand and your sound comes from below and comes out. And I really think so. But on a practical basis, some people are injured. They can't stand for all that time. And it's not wrong to sit. So if you are having trouble with standing for your whole practice time, it's okay to sit, but just make sure that you are sitting with great posture, your back is straight, and your airstream is able to come out completely straight, and there's no bending that interferes with that path. So the answer to that is not all the time, but you probably should. Number 2, do I need a new flute? And that is, you might. If you've been playing on a beginner flute and you feel like your skills have come up, your tone is developing, then what you really need is, the bottom line for what you need is a solid silver head joint. The body can be something else. Silver plated is generally what for the money in a step-up flute. You have a silver plated body and a solid silver or sterling silver head. That is what you need. If you have that, that can take you a long way. That can take you a long way. I don't know what your goals are. If you want to be a professional flute, maybe you need to go farther than that. But you're the best judge as to whether you do need it. Now, can you get a great tone on a beginner flute? I think you can. I think you can get a really nice tone. But at some point, you're going to hit a wall, and your tone is just not going to get any better till you add silver, or of course, if you want to spend money, put some gold on it. And then your tone can really, really grow. If you go from a solid silver head joint to then a professional model flute, you're not going to see quite the same jump in tone quality there. It is going to be better. I do think professional models are worth the money, but it just depends on your goals. I've had many a student have a solid silver head, silver plated body, which is the step up instrument from a beginner, and go on to music school, and they haven't gotten a professional until they've gotten their first job or they're in grad school. So I think that you do need to go from a beginner flute eventually to a step-up flute or intermediate flute. But from there, you probably can keep that. If you are the amateur that plays a lot and has a really good, plays in the bands and does some gigging, that can take you all the way. You don't have to go up from there. If you have the extra cash, then I would say yes, move up to that professional model flute from there eventually as well. But if you have a beginner flute will only go so far. If you don't have the cash to move up to even a step-up flute, don't be discouraged. You can still get a really nice tone on a beginner flute. Just make sure that it's fixed and it's overhauled and pads are fixed and it has a clean oil and adjust, and then that flute will work for you. 3. What are flutes made of? Well, that's a loaded question because it depends on if you're talking about beginner, step-up flutes, or professional model flutes. Beginner flutes have usually a mixture of metals, silver, nickel mixed together, and because it's a hardier flute for younger students. It doesn't bend as easily. It's factory made, and it will stand the test of time. It will dent and all that, but it can hold up. When you're talking about intermediate to professionals, you have a lot of fluctuation. The first step-up flutes are usually a silver-plated body and a solid silver head joint. But sometimes even step-up flutes have a solid silver body. It just means that they're generally factory made, not professional made, which is handmade. And so that is a great addition to the flute. But even in step-up flutes, you have some options of adding gold to your lip plate, gold to the riser, gold to some of the keys, or sometimes step-up flutes, they're gold plated. And that, of course, just adds some money. Now, when you're talking about professional model flutes, you have a lot more options as far as the metals that are being used. There are some amalgams that are being used today, and I can't even tell you all the different mixtures, but aramite is one that has been used and played, and people really enjoy the color that type of metal gives you. Sometimes the silver is mixed with 5% gold. There's a Haynes 5% gold all the way infused all the way through the flute, so if you look at it, it doesn't look gold, but it's infused in the silver, and I think that's a fantastic flute. But your options are many and varied, from a gold head joint to a gold body to the whole gold thing. You can have a gold lip plate. You can have a platinum lip plate, and they are using different metals today. So if you're interested in something other than just a solid silver flute, you want to go to one of the flute makers and ask what they have available, and then try them. And when we're talking gold, we can talk 9 karat and 16 karat and 14 karat and 18 karat. There's all those different levels too. So the sky's the limit, and of course budget, the sky's the limit as well. It just depends on what you want. But if we're talking about a beginner, it's a nickel silver combination. A step-up flute then is going to be solid silver head for the lower level of step up, and a silver plated body. And if you want to go a little bit higher than that, but not professional, then you want to get a whole solid silver. But you can get a gold plated flute, and that gives you a different sound. So even on step up models, you can have some gold. So I hope that helps to answer that question. The sky's the limit on the professional. Usually you're limited to a gold-plated and silver on the step-up models, and then a nickel-silver combination on your beginner flutes. 4. Why are flutes so expensive? Well, I think that the easy thing to say is, well, it depends on the market for silver. So if silver is going up in the market, then the silver that is in your flute is going to raise the prices as well. But if we want to take that out of the equation and just talk about beginner to step up to professional, beginner flutes and step up flutes are factory made. Now, sometimes a step up flute will advertise that their head joint is handmade and the body is factory made, and so just read the description. But generally you have factory made step-up flutes and beginner flutes, so that of course is going to bring the price down. Professional flutes, on the other hand, are handmade, and it's like, I always think about Johnny Tremaine in that book when he wants to be a silversmith and he's apprenticed to a silversmith. And you are apprentice and you learn how to work with silver to make those various things they did in the 1700s. And that's still sort of what happens with making flutes in the on the professional level. They are made by hand. A workman works at crafting the head joints and the bodies and molds the silver for the keys. It's all done by learning from a master craftsman. So it's that precise care that makes professional model flutes so phenomenal, but also raises the price. 5, how do I get a better tone? Well, I have a lot of videos on how to get a better tone, but let me just give you my bottom line ideas for that. Number 1, drop your jaw. Open up the space between your jaw. Number 2, open up the space between your lips. Your teeth can be apart and your lips closed. In every octave, whether you're doing high octave or low, the answer almost always is more space. Number 3, open your throat. Take a yawning breath and open the throat while you play. And number 4, have good support. And those 4 things all together, if you concentrate on those, they're going to give you a better tone. That's, in a nutshell, what I would say. And I've got videos that have longer explanations for getting a better tone. But if you do those 4 things, you'll notice a better tone today. 6, how do I tune the flute? Well, the easy thing to say is you move the head joint in and out. But we need a much more subtle method of tuning, because I can be in tune with my A, but my high D is wickedly out of tune, or my low D is wickedly out of tune. So what we have to do is manipulate the airstream with our embouchure. And that is how we raise and lower the airstream. So you don't want to raise and lower your head. Okay, I don't want to get flat or sharp and change things with my head. I want to move my jaw and lower or raise the airstream. Because if I use my jaw, then I'm going to maintain my sound. If I move my head, the tone is going to not be the same. So a tone here, it not only is it flat, but the tone became dull. And if I raise it because I need to go sharp, it becomes just airy. So I want to use my jaw to move the airstream up and down, and that's going to help me to tune better. Number 7, are all flutes in the same key? Well, no, they're not in the same key. However, most of them are. So if we talk about the 4 basic, piccolo, a C flute, alto flute, and bass flute, 3 out of the 4 are in the key of C. The alto flute is the only one of that grouping that is in another key, and that's in the key of G. So if you have the bass, the C flute, and the piccolo, they can all play the same music if you're wanting to warm up with the etudes. Of course, the alto flute can play the same etudes that you can, because they're not accompanied. It's only when you add accompaniment or you're playing in a group that you have to worry about the different key. So an alto flute is in the key of G. So it's not going to be able to play the same solo that a C flute can play in unless it's transposed to a new key. There are bigger flutes, the contrabass and the double contrabass flute. There's, hyper bass, really interesting low flutes. But of your main flutes, the key of C is 3 out of the 4. Number 8, what is support? Well, support is a long and involved issue, and I don't want to take that time right now. You can watch my videos on support. But I'll just tell you right now, support is when you breathe from your stomach and your rib cage, you tighten the muscles, and you create pressure inside. That's what support is. And you should be playing with support 100% of the time. If you don't play with that kind of pressure built up inside, then you're not getting the kind of tone you really could get. Support helps you to get resonance and to get a lively tone that really carries in a group, in a band, in an orchestra, and in solo performances. So you want to use support. when I'm teaching my students, I often just use the word pressure. Do you have pressure? Because I think that depicts exactly what support is. Support is big. I'm doing it right now as I talk about it, but I'm creating pressure inside by tightening my muscles and then pushing up on my tone. So support is just like the beams in a house that help hold the ceiling up. It's holding it up, and you want to think of support as holding your tone right there. This cushion of air that pushes up on your tone. That's what support is, but if you want to think of support as pressure, you'll probably get a better idea of what support is. Number 9 is gold or silver better in a flute? Well, that answer is preference. Gold gives you a warmer golden honey kind of sound. Silver gives you bright and edgy and a lot of color types of sounds. Gold is just different. If when you play a gold instrument or some parts of the instrument as gold and then you play solid silver, you'll hear a difference in tone for sure. But what your ear tells you is good, that's what's good. There is no one better than the other. In fact, teachers of old, like the famous teachers when I was growing up, and they were the adults and the famous concert flutists traveling around, really criticized the gold trend, because to them, the criticism was that gold just doesn't give you the same amount of color as silver. Silver has so many more colors than gold does. And I've never quite determined if that is exact true, but that's what I always heard. I like to have some gold. I have a gold riser in my head joint, and I think that gives a nice edge, a little bit more bigness to my sound. But gold is just different. Now, if you're not a really big player, I wouldn't recommend gold, because the softer metal, which gold is a softer metal, it takes more air. It takes a little bit more air, and to me, it doesn't do enough for my tone for me to switch over to gold. I'm not the biggest air player around, and so I like that I don't have to work quite so hard with a silver flute. That's the difference between gold and silver. And finally, question number 10 is, do I need an open hole flute? So that is a question for you to answer. I'll tell you just some of the benefits. A open hole flute, what the benefit of that is that it gives you a tonal resonance that you don't get on a closed hole flute. If I were to play a closed hole flute, I think you'd probably say my tone is still pretty good. Is not huge, maybe to you, the difference between this and a closed hole instrument of the same caliber, because they do make professional flutes that are closed hole. But the openings of the holes here give you a little bit more sound, a little more resonance, and how they make those holes in them, how they make the keys. It's a tonal kind of thing. It's a resonance type of idea. So that is going to help you. And then, of course, 20th and 21st century music, there's a lot of extended techniques that you need open holes for. So it's important to have. However, if you have some hand problems, and I know a friend who does have hand problems, and they play on a closed hole instrument, they're just don't care about 21st century music, and they're not going to be doing extended techniques. That's just fine. They get a great tone, and it works better for their hands. So don't feel pressured that you have to have an open hole flute if it's not going to be the best thing for your hands and not maintain health for that. So use your best judgment when deciding if an open hole flute is right for you. That's today's flute tip.